Good morning. Thank you everyone for joining us to discuss the importance of expanding rail in New Hampshire. As you all know, the transportation network is more than roads, bridges, and rail tracks. It is a vital economic engine that drives growth and creates jobs in all our communities. But here in New Hampshire and throughout much of New England, we have fallen woefully behind in maintaining and improving our infrastructure to meet our current and future needs. The Biden administration and the Democratic Senate offers hope for a robust infrastructure package that will help rebuild our economy after COVID-19 to build back better. And I'm thrilled that my good friend Pete Buttigieg has been confirmed as Secretary of the Department of Transportation. Last year, the House of Representatives passed the Moving Forward Act, legislation that will ensure that our nation is adequately investing in our infrastructure to build a smarter, safer, and more resilient America. This legislation would have made critical improvements to our healthcare system, broadband access, and even more. It also included my legislation, the Invest in American Railroads Act. This bipartisan bill, which I introduced with Representative Pappas and Republican Representative Smucker, make critical improvements to the Railroad Rehabilitation and Improvement Financing Program, or RRIF. These reforms to RRIF will make it less expensive for New Hampshire to finance a commuter rail line from Manchester and Nashua to Boston. With the new leadership in the Senate and the White House, I'm hopeful that we can get a robust infrastructure package over the finish line. In Nashua and across the region, traffic congestion is stifling our communities, and rising construction costs are crippling our state and local budgets. Our efforts have not done enough to address these issues, to provide relief to our commuters, or to extend the life of our transportation infrastructure. Passenger rail will make it easier for Granite Staters to get to their jobs in Boston and to get home to their families, and prevent them from spending endless hours sitting in traffic. This impacts the engagement of Granite Staters in their families' lives, in coaching Little League, in serving on community boards, and being fully engaged in our community. These are hours that they can spend with their families and enjoying the great quality of life right here in New Hampshire. It will also plug New Hampshire's burgeoning tech industry with the vast pool of talent from the Boston region, helping bring the best and brightest minds to employers in Nashua, Manchester, and beyond. I will continue to support legislative efforts in Washington to expand commuter rail in New Hampshire, and I look forward to discussing these efforts with all of you that are here with us today. Thank you so much. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Commissioner of the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, our good friend, Virginia Sheehan.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you to Congresswoman Kuster and to Congressman Pappas for this opportunity to provide you all with an update on the Capital Corridor Rail Project. I have two other members of the DOT team joining me today. The first is Patrick Herlihy, our Director of Aeronautics, Rail and Transit, and then we have our Administrator for the Bureau of Rail and Transit, Shelley Winters. So since we last provided updates to a number of the stakeholders, the department has been working to procure a consultant who would be a partner with us as we advance this very important project. Patrick is going to explain a little bit about the phase of the project that we're in right now. And Shelley, as our project manager, will talk about how we're structuring things at the DOT to manage this work. But I really want to stress that an important part of this particular effort is developing a robust financial plan for both the construction and improvements of the corridor that's necessary to support passenger rail, as well as the development of a financial plan for the operating. And so we really need to find partners in this effort as we talk about opportunities, especially around transit-oriented development and ways that we can ensure that this project is advanced in a multimodal fashion. And so we will be reaching out to the business community, to the Regional Planning Commission, to the cities of Nashua and Manchester. And while we've had great engagement in the past and have worked collaboratively with all of these stakeholders, moving forward, we're going to be much more actively reaching out and scheduling meetings that you can help us with the development of the financial planning in particular. So really, we want to strengthen the relationships and make sure that we have the right people around the table for these conversations. And that's where we'll be coming to the communities directly, asking you for suggestions on who to bring together, and make sure that we have a full understanding of how best to advance this project. So with that, I'll turn it over to Patrick, and he can explain a little bit more about the project development phase.
Thank you, Commissioner, and good morning, everybody. And thank you, Representatives Kuster and Pappas, for the opportunity to discuss this project today. As the Commissioner mentioned, we do have a contract in place with AECOM. It's a $5.4 million contract to implement what I would call the second phase of the continuum of the federal government, Federal Transit Administration continuum, to receive what's called capital investment grant funding to, at the end of this continuum, to provide the funding to construct the project. The first part of the continuum was the alternatives analysis, or the study phase, which was done back in 2014, that laid out a menu of options for our policymakers to decide, looking at it from a cost-benefit perspective, what project the department should pursue. At that time, it was determined that the locally preferred alternative would be a Manchester Regional Commuter Rail alternative, which was the extension of the MBTA commuter rail line from Lowell, Massachusetts up to Manchester, with 4 stops in New Hampshire, one in the southern part of Nashua, one in downtown Nashua, one out at Manchester Airport, and one in the downtown Manchester area. We'd be looking at 16 weekday trains for Manchester and 34 weekday trains to Nashua. So that was done back in 2014. We had a lot of public engagement that was done at that time, and public input to craft that plan. And from that, we're now entering what's called the project development phase. And in the project development phase, we need to come up with sufficient engineering to come up with a firm cost estimate that we need to use to carry the project forward. At the time of when the study was done, again, this was 6 years ago now, the cost was estimated for the Manchester option to be approximately $246 million in capital and about $11 million a year in operating. So we need to see if those costs, what those costs look like today. And again, there's a cost that we need to carry forward as we go through this continuum. So the project development phase consists of that engineering piece. It all consists of finishing the environmental work that's needed through the National Environmental Policy Act to come up with what environmental impacts, if any, are going to be assumed as part of this project, and how we're going to address those. And then the final piece of this, as the Commissioner mentioned, is the financial plan. And the financial plan is really the important piece moving forward, how we're going to pay for this. And under the project development phase, not only do we need to come up with a financial plan, but we need to show 30% of the matching funds that are going to be needed for the project. Traditionally, the federal government on the capital side has paid for about 50% of the cost of those capital improvements. And in the operating side, in the out years, will contribute some funding to the operation. But we really need to, as the Commissioner stressed, have a partnership here to go forward, whether it's with state government, with our private partners, to see how this endeavor can be paid for. And with that, I'll turn it over to Shelley Winters, who's going to talk more about the team that's in place to do this. Shelley?
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. And thank you for the opportunity to speak today on this important project. My name is Shelley Winters. I'm the administrator of the Bureau of Rail and Transit here at the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, and I'm one of the project managers for the contract that we have with the AECOM for the project development phase. So my role will to liaise with other staff within the Bureau of Rail and Transit. We have some railroad staff that we will be able to call upon, as well as on the highway side of the department. We have many staff who will be engaged throughout the project to help look at information that's provided by AECOM. And I'll also be working as a liaison with the Federal Transit Administration, primarily with our Region 1 office down in Cambridge, as well as some staff in headquarters to go through the continuum of the process that Patrick discussed. And I'll also be a primary point of contact should there be any questions from stakeholders about this project, and I'll have the ability to coordinate with the Commissioner's office, with Patrick and Commissioner Sheehan, as well as our Public Information Office, to make sure that we're getting the right information to the right people, and again, working hand in hand with AECOM throughout this multi-year process. So I think with that, I'll turn it over next to EJ, I believe.
Thanks, Shelley. EJ Powers here with New Hampshire Business for Rail Expansion. I want to start by thanking Congressman Pappas and Congresswoman Kuster for their leadership on this issue, as well as numerous state and local officials, from elected officials in Manchester and Nashua, Mayors Craig and Donchis, to the Chambers of Commerce, the Greater Manchester Chamber, as well as the Nashua Chamber, for their leadership on this issue. And of course, to the Department of Transportation, which has to do a lot of the heavy lifting on this. And they've been a tremendous resource to all parties throughout, in order to ensure that the public has the information they need, and elected officials have the information they need to make an educated decision as to whether to pursue this rail expansion project or not. And I'm reminded of how long we've been working on this. The study, the Capital Corridor study, happened 6 years ago, which seems like yesterday or longer, I don't know. All days sort of run into each other nowadays. But you know, it took about 6 years to secure the funding in order to begin this project development analysis, and through the hard work of many individuals. And this analysis is truly that. It's an opportunity to put all sort of the cards and data on the table to give elected officials and policymakers in the state of New Hampshire the information that they need in order to potentially move forward with this project. And there is strong support from this project, and strong bipartisan support. Congresswoman Kuster noted, co-sponsor on legislation that she's working on. And, a poll that was conducted by our organization in the St. Anselm College Survey Center showed that 75.5% of New Hampshire residents support passenger rail expansion. And that was a majority of residents in every county of the state, from every political party, every gender, every age, every education level, and every ideology. So this is truly a bipartisan effort that does not have a party affiliated with it. And my organization, New Hampshire Business for Rail Expansion, represents hundreds of businesses, from small coffee shops to the state's largest banks, who really believe in this opportunity for the state of New Hampshire. And Congresswoman Kuster, I think, said it eloquently this morning. The title of, I'm not sure of the exact title of the president's bill, but this is about rebuilding our economy. And this is a tremendous economic opportunity for the state of New Hampshire. The Capital Corridor study showed that with over 668,000 weekday riders, this project would create 5,600 permanent jobs, 3,400 construction jobs, 1,700 new jobs every year beginning in 2030 once the project is built, 3,600 residential units to support new workers, 9 million square feet of commercial real estate as a byproduct of this, $750 million in real estate investment, and $220 million in reinvested worker earnings. So when we think about a number of challenges that our state and our country face, and we look at economic development opportunities, I haven't seen one that comes close to this. So I am extremely excited to participate in this project development analysis and see the results of that analysis, and what the opportunity is for us to move forward. So I would just like to really thank, again, everybody involved that has gotten us to this point. There's still a lot of work to be done and a lot of great information to share. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Jamin Carr, who's been an advocate and a leader in the rail space for quite some time and is representing the city of Nashua. So Jay, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, EJ, and thank you for your leadership on this role, because without the business community's support, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to move this initiative forward. So I'm Jamin Carr, Executive Director of the Nashua Regional Planning Commission, but I'm here on behalf of the Nashua's Rail Transit Committee. And Nashua recognizes in putting together the Rail Transit Committee, which was adopted, created by the mayor and the Board of Aldermen, that the city needs to be a partner in this process. And beyond just the city, we need to be working with our regional, neighbors. And because while there's very, very strong support in the city of Nashua for this project and in many of our surrounding communities, in some of our communities, it's maybe harder to make the case for why this is an important project for them also. So one of our major goals on the Rail Transit Committee is to be reaching out to and working with our neighboring communities. And that includes the city of Manchester. But a couple of points that I did want to make is that when we look at this project in our region, most certainly we're looking at connections to Boston. Many of you know the city of Nashua and Manchester are the largest cities in New England that are not connected to the passenger rail network. Obviously, that's a disadvantage to us economically. And in our region in particular, where over 30% of our labor force is commuting to Massachusetts, the impact is really significant. It's an economic issue, it's a transportation issue, and it's an environmental issue. But beyond just Boston, we really see the interconnection of the cities in our region as critical as well. So as an example, we're working on a transit expansion study now, looking at the connections to Lowell, looking at connections to Alewife, and are really quite surprised to see the amount of traffic flow that's going in between the Nashua region and the Lowell region. In particular, UMass Lowell is a major destination, as well as the Gallagher terminal. There's significant flow between Nashua and Manchester, and of course the airport itself. So we see a real potential, not just in bringing our commuters to Boston, but a potential for reverse commute and potential to actually be linking our cities, to see rail transit be that a part of what brings our region together. So we in Nashua are really heartened to see that the project development phase, is moving forward. It has been a long time to get there, and really appreciative of the focus that our congressional delegation has put on this project, the priority that is made. We all recognize there's a lot of work to be done. We also, I think most of us recognize that there's going to need to be an increased funding at some level in order to see this happen. So really grateful to be a part of this process, and we think this is truly an exciting time for all of New Hampshire. Oh, and I think I'm passing the baton on now to the Congressman.
Well, thank you, Jay, and Annie Kuster, great to see you. Thanks for all your hard work on this, and I appreciate the efforts of Commissioner Sheehan and members of the New Hampshire Department of Transportation's team who have been hard at work on this for a number of years. This stretches back well before 2014. I know we had a false start out of the gate trying to get the initial study approved, and EJ, you did a terrific job of outlining the economic impacts of this project. And really, this is an economic game changer, not just for the cities of Manchester and Nashua, but for our entire state. And as we look forward to talk about how we can rebuild our economy, put people back to work, and really get things moving again, this is a project that is essential, especially as we talk about business and workforce development in New Hampshire. We can't do it without adequate transportation, including rail access. So extending passenger rail from Manchester and Nashua to Boston is something that has gained significant popular support, and we appreciate all those that have helped build momentum for this project. And I think it's really exciting to see where we are. The fact that the financial planning and project development phase is underway means that we are just a few steps from actually putting together all the pieces needed to move this thing forward. And it's about time we did it. So I sit on the Transportation Infrastructure Committee in Congress. We just had a very lengthy markup last night on COVID relief legislation and about $92 billion to maintain networks, support transit, support our airports. and do other things as we talk about COVID relief and how we keep things in place and keep people employed. The next step is going to be to talk about recovery and how we can put people back to work. Annie mentioned the efforts in the last Congress to do a multi-year surface transportation bill that could meet the growing needs of our country and make some of the critical investments that have long been waylaid, including expanding passenger rail into New Hampshire. So some of the provisions that were included in the House version of that Moving Forward Act, we hope will be the starting point for conversations about the recovery and infrastructure package that we expect will be taken up by the House and Senate later this year. We fought to make sure that there was increased programmatic support to provide the federal funding that's necessary to bring the Capital Corridor project forward. That would happen under the New Starts program. And so in the 5-year transportation bill that we passed last year, that we hope will be included in the bill this time, it increases the capacity of New Starts from about $2 billion to about $5.5 billion by the end of the 5th year. That's a significant increase that can provide the kind of capacity we need to make sure that the Capital Corridor and other important projects around the country get funded. In addition to that, we want to make sure that there's flexibility in the funding. And Annie mentioned her legislation around financing that is really critically important to help pick up that share. This is kind of parallel to the effort under the TIFIA program that helped fund the I-93 project. And I think this could be used in a way to really help make sure that those costs are being met in terms of financing the project. And in addition to that, we look to provide some flexibility to the most streamlined of the New Starts programs. This is the Small Starts programs, by increasing the cap on those projects to about $400 million. That would allow this project to fit in that more streamlined program, and would also provide for a 60% cost share. So I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities as we talk about the infrastructure bill to make sure that the programmatic capacity and flexibility is there to support the Capital Corridor project. And we'll continue to pay close attention to that and build support in Congress. But I think there's just growing bipartisan desire all across our country to make investments in the future of our communities. And that involves greater investment in our transportation networks, in our roads and bridges, transit systems, rail systems, but also some of the infrastructure we don't see that's so important in our daily lives, our water systems, our broadband. And so I do expect those items will also be a part of that package in a way that brings some critical investment, much needed investment here to New Hampshire. So I'm really excited about the possibilities there. So with that, I know Annie's got to head off to a committee meeting soon. So I think we should probably open it up to some questions. I know we have some members of the media who have joined us here today. And Colin, maybe I'll turn it over to you if you want to see if anyone has questions.
Yep, and we actually just have a few minutes left. So this will just be questions for members of the press who are on. I know we have folks from WMUR. And another channel, Manchester TV. If you have any questions now, please go ahead and ask. And if you can always loop back with me if there are questions the press have that maybe you're not able to answer now. But hearing none, I think we are safe to wind this down.
Okay, terrific. Congresswoman, any closing comments?
Yeah, I would just love to hear, I had a couple of questions if I could. For Jay, just the impact of commuter rail in the Nashua region. We heard from EJ. I'm just wondering your thoughts on how this would make a difference for economic development and quality of life in Nashua.
Well, we think the impact is going to be significant. Frankly, the statistics that EJ cited, I absolutely support, but I think they're conservative, and that was necessarily so. So I think that was prudent. But we do think that the impacts are going to be more significant for a few reasons. One, we've seen since the time that the feasibility study was completed, we've actually seen an increase in commuter traffic, and we've also seen more and more growth in the Nashua area. So we think that the demand is going to be greater. And the city itself has done a lot of work planning around potential station sites where the opportunity for development, I think, has increased. So from that perspective, I think economically it's hugely significant. The other issues, though, that we are hearing from our community and why the support is so strong is, one, access to higher education. Our education links to major institutions in Massachusetts are great, and the opportunity to increase access, we think is very significant, and also to healthcare facilities, because we still have, despite the great healthcare opportunities that we have and provisions that we do have in New Hampshire, many people still are seeking specialized care in the Boston area, and providing those transportation links is really, really critical. It's vital from our perspective. The other challenge is, that we see, and granted, COVID has impacted all of us, but prior to getting into COVID, and we do think we're going to get back there, the biggest challenge that we were hearing from our major employers in our region was the need to access talent, to get more talent, to access the labor force. And the demand for reverse commute, we think, is significant. We've been able to do, with some of the technology that's available today, some plotting of where are the employees coming from. And we were surprised to find how significant a draw some of our major employers like BAE in South Nashua are. And so we think that that's something that we can build on significantly, because unless we can attract the labor force, our businesses can't grow and can't flourish. So this is really vital, I think, for all of those reasons to our region's economy.
Great. Well, thank you. And you touched on all of the thoughts that I'm having. I know we visited, Chris and I dine in Manchester, Fidelity, and Merrimack, BAE, but also I hear a lot about rail over in Peterborough, Cheshire County, Hillsborough County, Salem, the whole southern tier. And then obviously I'm very close to the hospitality, the ski industry, the winter sports, the lakes region. Just getting people back and forth, I think, is really critical. So I'm thrilled with this. Chris, I'm so pleased that you serve on transportation and infrastructure. And Commissioner Sheehan, thank you for your leadership. And Patrick, you just keep moving forward. Shelley, thank you for all that you're doing. And EJ and Jay, thank you for putting a voice and a face to the business community, and just what a game changer this could be for quality of life here in New Hampshire. So I'm very excited about it. We'll put our shoulder to the wheel, and we look forward to working with all of you. Thank you so much for being with us today. Back to you, Chris.
Well, no, I'll just echo that and say thanks once again, and we look forward to staying in touch on this, and we appreciate the hard work that New Hampshire Department of Transportation and the contracted party are doing on this, and we're really excited to see how we can help moving forward. So look forward to staying in touch with all of you, and I think we're hoping we can continue to provide an opportunity for the public to hear a little bit about what's going on in Washington with respect to COVID relief, and also our work on infrastructure. So we'll certainly be providing updates in the coming weeks and months. So everyone stay safe. It's really nice to see you all, and thanks for being a part of this here today.